What is up, everybody? Happy Monday evening. Hope everyone is well. Listen, man, the things we talk about backstage, hilarious. The man Nevada Buck is a funny guy. All right, listen, make sure you hit that like button, thumbs up button. Do that for us now. Get that out the way so we can go ahead and flow. Also, we're going to talk about Julian Sayin. We got some folk questioning his deep ball abilities. We're going to talk about that. We're gonna have fun talking about that. And I also, if you have not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. Click that button, click the bell as well, so that you get notifications when we go live and all that good stuff. And listen, I know we got Minnesota coming up. We may touch on that lightly at the end. We'll see. But it's all about Sayin. It's all about the boy Julian today. So we're definitely going to dive into that. Also, remember, when you send those great super chats, helps to go towards the pay it forward, which is the military, first responders. We're going to look out for them because they always look out for us. Nevada Buck, what's up, brother?
Oh man, yeah, we are having some big fun. We were having fun last night. It's already kind of extended into today, so it's nonstop hilarity here on the scoop. And yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm just so excited because the team is at such a good place right now. And we talk about how easier our life gets when Ohio State football's good.
Yeah.
And these podcasts are fun. I'm not quite sure they'd be as much fun if we were 1-3
Right.
and 23-point underdogs for this weekend or something like that. We probably couldn't be quite as hilarious as we are. But yeah, it's a good time to be an Ohio State football fan for sure. Enjoy it while it lasts, because it never lasts forever, but it just seems like it has, because it's been going on for 20 years, and doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon.
Nope, not at all. And this is why we always encourage you guys. You guys who are, remember the character on Saturday Night Live, Debbie Downers? Don't be that. We're encouraging you to come in. The waters are fine. The positive, happy, sunshine, pumping waters are fine. Come on in. No better team, no better school to root for than the world famous Ohio State Buckeyes. And like Nevada said, yeah, I mean, listen, this program, it's funny, Nevada. Before we get into the topic, is that I pay attention to national analysts. Okay, I'm curious to hear what they say, especially as a content creator. And a lot of them are repeating each other, and they're saying, "Man, I didn't realize how good this team would be. I mean, they lost all these guys to the draft. How could they still be this good?" And you know what, Bob, or whatever, Bob podcaster, my partner, they might even be better than last year. I mean, like, they're astounded by it. But again, Ryan Day, coaching staff, culture, players, development, all of that stuff. And so it's exciting. It's so exciting. Like Nevada said the other day, I believe it was yesterday, 25% through our road games, we already got one in the books. Possibly, well, I won't say our toughest because we got the team up north. That's all, that's the game. I know we got at Illinois, but it's a tough road game. We got over that and we passed it with flying colors. Just to know that and be looking forward to a home game against Minnesota, 4-0, number one in the country. It's a great feeling, Nevada. So, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, no, it's fun. And for Ohio State, it's funny because um while as effective as we've been in the transfer portal and things like that, most of these guys, most of these new guys here aren't really transfer portal guys. They're just young guys that have been on the roster that are stepping up and kind of doing it. And while nobody's played the portal and the transfer thing better than Ohio State, man, the culture and development for Ohio State's on full effect. And they're exceeding, even I had super high expectations for this team. And it's a long way to go. A lot of things can happen between now and the end of the season, but boy, this team's looking good. And I watch a lot of college football. I watch around it, and I can say without question, 100% certainty, that there's nobody better than Ohio State. There's no team. That there may be teams that are maybe in a conversation with, and obviously in any given day anybody can beat anybody. Um, but we're the boogeyman. we're the Baba Yaga. We're the team that the other guys are scared of, that they don't want to play, and they can't figure out how we could lose 14 guys the NFL draft, and then keep on cranking like this. And what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Alabama under Saban. That's what it reminded me of. So it's like
Yeah,
that's who we are, man. We're heavy as the head that wears the crown, but we have the crown right now. That's for sure.
absolutely. So basically, we're on some look at me. I'm the boogeyman now, Captain Phillips. That's what we're saying.
That was his
So
only role. Do you know that was his only role? That guy that played the Somali,
yes,
that was his only role they ever played, and
yes,
he got an Academy Award nomination for that. I think.
incredible. One of the
Incredible.
best. I've seen the backstory about that, Nevada. That's crazy. I think they literally just pick him up off the street, or did he come in for a audition off the street and he's
I,
never acted?
he had never acted before. I don't know how he got it. I don't know exactly the alternative, but I know that it was the only role he's ever played. That was a pretty specific role. It's like
Yeah,
Somalian pirate, and he was a Somalian pirate. So,
yeah.
but he was really authentic, man. He was good.
Yeah, yeah, it was good. It was very good, man. Like, I'm glad you brought that up for the whole movie buff element to the show. That's a great point. And I was fascinated when I heard about that. I'm like, look at this dude. I see him just coming off the street, just winning awards. It's crazy. But but anyway, so let's transition. So let me introduce this here. Okay. So the college football nerds, okay, they have a podcast. They're Southern guys, they're SEC guys. Now, listen, personally, before we get into this, I don't have a problem with them. I don't think they hate Ohio State like some people say. I don't think they're being nasty and trying to attack and hate. I do believe they have good intentions. Based off of following them, I think they try to be fair. Okay. And sometimes I agree with them, and sometimes I think their take is not so good. This is one of those times. So I wanted to lay that out. This is not an attack on them. I ain't got no problem with them. We're just responding to their claim that Sayin may be limited on his deep ball. And, they brought some different things out. They're very stat and model driven and stuff like that. But their explanation left a lot to be desired, in my opinion. So we're going to talk about that. In Nevada, I want you to kick it off and kind of give me your initial thoughts about it, because it's funny. Before you get into it, you were just talking about the historical bad takes. And one of those historical bad takes was Will Howard can't throw the deep ball. So here we are now in 2025, 4 games in, and Sayin has all these stats and all that other stuff. But here we are. Sayin can't throw the deep ball. Sir, what is your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I want to echo your things. I don't think the CFB nerds they're not trolls. They're not
Yeah,
bad. There's a lot of bad guys in it. These aren't those guys.
agreed.
However, this is a bad take. And what they're basing it on is the fact that he's only completed 9 passes of over 20 plus yards. Okay. Now, I'm a stat guy. I'm a stat guy by nature. I'm a stat guy by training. I've always been a stat guy. My brother was one of the great statisticians, rest his soul, that ever walked. You know what I'm saying? Like he was one of the first guys to ever apply computer programming to sports analytics, and was part of the computer group with Billy Walt. I mean, like really high level stuff in terms of analytics, stats. So I've been just intrigued by numbers since I was really small, learning from him a lot. And the two things that kill stat things in terms of trying to make conclusions are: one, small sample sizes, or two, context. And if you're so when you're looking at Julian Saying and you're looking at 4 games, let me tell you, one, that's a very small sample size. Okay. 4 games is not a large sample size for a quarterback. Now, when you throw in now, well, let's get at the context standpoint. The first game was against Texas. Okay, Texas. Anybody who watched the game, was at the game, saw the game, followed the game, knew that Ohio State was in very difficult field position most of the game, until they got control of the game, and at that point, they were just trying to kind of control the clock, run the game out, win the game the surest way, and they went ahead to do that. Beat number one 14-7 in that game. There weren't a lot of opportunities to throw deep, especially when you consider that he had 2 brand new tackles there with Austin Seyerveld and Philip Daniels to tackle. So the game plan did not involve him winging and dinging the ball down the field against against Texas. Okay. Now the second game was against Grambling, he didn't need to be throwing it deep against Grambling. That wasn't really that kind of a game. They won 70 to nothing or whatever. I can't even remember what the final score was, but it wasn't the type of game that throwing the ball deep was really appropriate. The third game against Ohio U, Ohio U was crowding the line, and so they started to take some deeper shots. They did take some deeper shots in that game. Um, and then the Washington game came. It's the same type of thing. Weird game. Only had 3 possessions in the first half. Didn't have a ton of possessions in the game. Washington was playing a really deep, too high shell. So they were trying to take away the deep shots from us. So we went underneath them a lot. Controlled the game, won by 18 points. So, the argument of he's only completed 9 passes of over 20 plus yards in 4 games, it just doesn't make any sense. Because let me tell you, with Julian saying the good deep ball throwers have a few things. Okay, one, they have great mechanics. Two, they have a live arm. Three, they are very accurate with the ball. Four, they're intelligent and can work out the timing. Those are the attributes that make great deep ball throwers. So let's break it down with Julian Sayin. Julian Sayin is #1 in the country in completion percentage at 78% as a true freshman, despite playing that schedule with Texas, might be the best defense in the country on it. Um, he's also 8th in the country in yards per attempt, which means he's not dinking and dunking. He's throwing the ball down. He's at 10.02, I think it is, yards per attempt. So he's not just throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage. He's moving the ball. He's getting a good chunk yards per attempt. So he's got the accuracy. He's clearly got the live arm. We all see it. He can make every throw. There's nothing noodly about him. He can throw it on a line. He can layer it in there. He can throw it to. I mean, he's thrown the big rainbow shots. He's got perfect mechanics. He literally is the most accurate quarterback in the country by things. So when you add all those things up, the idea that Julian Sayin wouldn't be a good deep ball thrower is just kind of preposterous. Let alone having seen him do it in high school 100 times, where he can air it out. Let alone the fact that he won the Elite 11, not just dinking and dunking, but moving the ball down the field. So I think that their take, while based upon a very limited, small sample size and without context, I think it was just a lazy take. And I would just hate to see this one kind of take off, so that we have to debunk this one, like we did last year with Will Howard can't throw the deep ball. But that was probably a long answer to a short question, but that's what I got. And B, I think you are muted right now.
Oh, I hate it. Yes. All right. So I was praising you. I was singing your praises. So basically, I was saying that no, your answer was great. I'm glad you went into depth like you did, because I mean you're just showing factually and logically their take doesn't add up. And they even tried to go into like an explanation of, oh, and the ball to Tate on this play, he underthrew it, or to Jeremiah or whatever. Like, they're basically trying to get in the weeds and claim that even though it was a deep ball technically that was completed, it didn't look good. Right. So they go to that into their tweets. So I'm glad you brought that up. And right now I got some stats. Shout out to Brian Walton on X. He's good at posting stats and keeping us up to date on that. And yes, you mentioned these. Look, the 2 stats you mentioned out of what he put on here is key. #1 in completion percentage, #4 passer rating, #7 in TD percentage, #8 in yards per attempt. That right there is the backbreaker. That right there kills that dink and dunk, or we question his deep ball ability stuff. And of course, he's just going to keep on rising. And listen, man, we haven't played anybody. We played Texas. We've played Texas. There's other teams. We're 4 weeks in now. Okay. So most teams have played either one strong team in cupcakes, or, nobody has 5 or 6 ranked teams on their slate for opponents. So it's very comparable in the landscape. So you can't just downplay it because we got Grambling on the schedule. Ohio's a good team. Okay. Washington on the road was a tough game. Whatever. Don't try to downplay it. The kid is really, really good. And so I just wanted to
It
say,
be I don't
go
want to
ahead.
interrupt you, but
Go ahead.
how many teams have played tougher schedules than we have so far? I mean, I mean,
That's
I
that's
mean,
the question.
I mean,
I don't
number one, Texas. I mean, not Grambling obviously was our super cupcake. Ohio U's no cupcake. Ohio U will beat a lot of
No.
good teams this year, and
Yeah.
Washington on the road. I mean, I'm not saying that's like the murderous row of all time, but
Right.
has anybody really played a tougher schedule than that? And that's a good schedule for the first four games.
No, I agree. I agree. And that's what I'm saying. Is just like, what do you expect us to play? Bama, Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas. The first, I mean, like the schedule's a schedule. It's just as good, if not better than most. Playing the number one, then the number one team in the nation. With a good defense, regardless of what you say about Arch, they still have a legit defense. Okay. So I don't want to hear that. So I'm glad you brought all that out. Okay. But the other thing that I want to kind of bring out as well that you mentioned, excuse me, is that these defenses that we were right about a lot, Nevada, with the Washington game. But one thing that we were not right about and did not expect is that Washington ended up playing a lot more zone than we thought they would. We thought they would stick to their man principles. And I got a guy who charts this stuff. He told me not to quote him specifically yet, but he believes it's around 60 to 80% zone that they played in that game. He's still nailing down the numbers. The point is, though, they're a primarily man team, okay? And they played a ton of zone. They were in that cover three shell. They were in cover two. And people, and my guy, shout out to my guy Dylan, was talking to him earlier, and he was saying, I don't think people realize, not just Washington, but the teams on our schedule, how deep they're having their safeties back. The game plan has been pretty comparable for these teams. They're trying to take away the deep shot. They've seen film of Jeremiah Smith. They've seen the Nike commercials and the IG reels and Carnell Tate. So they're trying to make us work our way down the field. Okay. So when people are watching games, Nevada fans, and they're saying, why don't we pass the ball more? Why don't we have deep shots? This is why I wait until I see the all 22 film before I have a definitive opinion about what's going on with the game plan, because I want to know what's going on the back end. What are they doing? Now, obviously, there's some things we can do if they're in a cover three, if they're in a shell, if they have deep safeties. There's a few things we can do to try to get them out of that. Okay, number one, run the ball. And this is why having Bo Jackson in there to be a legit threat, not just to pick up a few yards, but be a threat to pick up double the yards of what's been blocked or break a big run, is that is an element to help get the defenses out of that too high or that cover three shell. Okay, you want to get them out of that so that you can take shots over the top. That's football 101, right? So not only running the ball, you can try to exploit like the flats. You can do verticals. You can flood zone concepts. There's different things you can do to get them up out of that cover three. Okay. A part of that is just execution. And I believe Sayin has done that pretty well and will continue to do that better and better if defenses keep trying to do that. There's ways to get them up out of that. And running the ball well is a big way. So our running game coming along is really going to help with that. Because they're going to have to bring them safeties down if Bo Jackson is popping you for 15, every run, 10, 15 yards a run, and then we're killing you in the flats, and intermediate routes to attack that zone, and we're just chunk, chunk, chunk. You want to come up out of that, and so we'll see how teams play us, but there's context to these only 9 passes, and Nevada laid that out perfectly, and I just wanted to elaborate on that a little more. Nevada, you got anything to say about that?
Well, yeah, and I think your point about running the ball. Well, I mean, we have to run the ball better because
Yeah.
I agree with you. They're respecting our ability to stretch the field vertically like that, and you've got to be able to run the ball, and to do that, you've just got to be a little bit more, um, evasive in terms of what you're doing and where you're running to. Because when we get predictable and we kind of point to where we're going to run, and we mass fronts and we load a fullback in there, that's when it's easier to kind of defend us. But when you get in a situation where we start running misdirection or counters, which I know they've got in the playbooks. And I'm not a big proponent of the people that are like, oh, well, they're just holding this back on the plays. But I mean, Ohio State really is opening the playbook slowly but surely up before our eyes. And that misdirection play that they ran to, I believe it was Cornell Tate in the red zone. We'll start running more of that stuff. They'll start running more of that, that orbit motion, running back handoff to the wide receiver, reverses, in the inside counters. They're going to start doing more of that stuff, but they have to do that against defenses, so you can't just sell out and load up the box and run blitz on first and second down and then play a deep shell on third down, because that's what gives us trouble. So I think if anybody has any legitimate criticism of Julian Sayin's deep ball, I would say that I think his time, I think he's a beat slow throwing the deep ball. I think he's being a little careful with the ball. I think he's holding it one extra, just little, pat on the ball before he lets it go. I don't know if that's because they've drilled into him, so much about being sure, or he's just not completely trusting the read or whatever it is. But I think he's just a slight bit late, and that's what's making the ball maybe a little bit behind, or not out in front or whatever it is. But he's the most accurate passer in college football. His mechanics are perfect. He's got a live arm. The guy, I don't know how far he can throw it, but I have no doubt he can throw it 70, 75 yards. I mean, he throws it a long way. So I I totally believe that they'll figure that thing out. I don't believe there's any deficiency in him. Um, but while we're on stats, we're making this kind of the stats show. There were some stats that came out today that I thought were interesting. One was that Austin Seyerveld at left tackle has not allowed a pressure this entire year, which is a crazy stat from a guy that was the brand new left tackle. Um, the fact that Ethan, who was brought in and paid, $1 million+ to come in from Rice and be that guy, and he's a utility guy on the line, but not the starter, just goes to show you that the portal guys are not always better than what you have, and Austin Seyerveld is playing at an extremely high level on the left tackle. You just never call his name. You just never. He's just erasing guys out there on the left side. And if you had Austin Seyerveld at left tackle on your bingo card, then I salute you, because I follow this for a living. I do this every day, 24 hours a day, and I did not see that one coming. 6 months
Yeah,
ago, I did
agreed.
not. So this is a remarkable accomplishment by Austin, and just a tremendous, tremendous player, and tremendous thing. Second stat that I want to note: there's a thing for running backs called miss rate, where it's like how often do you make the first guy miss? You know what I'm saying? And the a good college running back is like 14%. That's like 14% is a good college running back. Bo Jackson's at 22.
Mm.
Okay. By comparison, CJ Donaldson's at 4%. And that's not being Mr. Mean. That's not trying to, I'm not anti CJ or saying CJ stole my lunch money, or nothing about that. It's just, that's the difference between CJ Donaldson and Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson can make the first guy miss, can get those yards, finishes, leaning forward, doesn't run quite as uprightly as CJ Donaldson does in those situations. And, that's the kind of performance that we need to get. CJ and James Peoples need to be better. They need to be better, because we can't be just dependent upon a freshman with an injury history like Bo Jackson to try to get us through a 17-game season. We need those guys to be better, and I'm confident they will. I know they're drilling. Those guys are super talented, super athletic. They've just got to trust it more. But that's the difference right there: ability to make the first guy miss. And I wanted to share that stat as well.
No, that's great. Yeah, and kudos to Austin Saravel, man. What a story. What a story. His story needs to be highlighted more. I hope Big Ten Network does a Big Ten journey. You know how to do the journeys, stuff. He deserves it. And that's just phenomenal. Real quick about Bo Jackson. And for those who missed the pod last night, we broke that down. We showed one of the plays of his runs where it wasn't blocked up perfectly. It was a little muddled in there, and he found the hole and he was hit after contact. Like last night when we pointed that out, really emphasizes what Nevada just said. There was contact at the line of scrimmage. He broke the tackle. First of all, I've been very impressed with his high and tight with the ball. You could tell Locke is not playing. They are drilling that. It's like a textbook practice play. His legs are still moving as he's getting north, and his pad level was darn near perfect. He's almost 6'2", y'all. 6'1" and a half. He's not a short back. So he has that burst, acceleration, vision. Legs are always churning, and he's always falling forward. I cannot remember seeing him, Nevada, ever being knocked back. He's always falling forward. So he picked up almost 10 yards on a play where he ping ponged through about 3 or 4 guys before he was actually brought down as he's going north. Okay. So I believe that percentage because we see it on film. So, with that said, with the run game, I'm very, very optimistic about the run game, going to another level because, again, look, CJ is who he is. I don't think he's trash. He's who he is. He's a pounding in between the tackles back, especially, in the red zone type of situation, short yardage. He has done some good things for us. And he's out there thinking a little too much. He has some good talent, but he just needs to settle down and put it all together. But Bo Jackson is the complete back right now, but he's a freshman, so we're bringing him along. But to Nevada's point, is like, yeah, that stat is crazy, especially for a true freshman, but we're seeing it on the field. And I believe as our running game improves, teams are going to have to think twice about, just sitting back in that shell, trying to protect from Jeremiah Smith taking the top off, Nevada.
Yeah, well, and I mean, and I even liked, for limited contributions, but I like Julian Sayin contributing some positive rushing yards,
Yeah.
on the plays and doing some stuff. I mean, that stuff can really add up and really can make a difference. And as he grows more confident in terms of doing it, you want her to do it. Now, having said that, we talked about things that could derail the season. Like I like to talk out my worst fears, but like if something happened to Julian Sayin, it'd be really bad. So I understand why they're protecting him, why they're not asking him to run and take hits and do that. It's like you got to be careful with a guy like that because I'm not saying Lincoln isn't a good quarterback or whatever, but Julian's different, man. Julian's different, and Julian's who they've invested, all these reps, these practice reps and all these game reps, and I mean, as Lincoln, how many reps has Lincoln taken this entire season so far?
I believe one. One.
I mean, right? I mean,
Yeah.
did he even have a
Oh,
series?
hold on.
Did
No,
he
I'm
even,
sorry. My bad. My bad. I'm wrong. That was against Ohio, I believe, that he had the one uh, carry. But as far as reps, yeah, he played against Grambling, obviously. My
okay,
bad.
but
So,
he
yeah.
didn't. But he didn't play against Texas, and he didn't play
No,
against Washington.
correct.
So so he's gotten really limited action. So yeah, I get why they want to protect him, but no, I mean when you look at Bo Jackson, you see he's averaging 9 yards a carry. The other guy's five. That's not just coincidence, man. That's ability, and that's where he's at right now in terms of his journey. But he's playing at a really high level for Ohio State, and they got to continue to execute that. And I really do feel good about that. I really feel like Ohio State is making a concerted effort right now to control the games, and they're playing slow right now. And Helping Technician had a great nugget on this today, and he brought up something that I thought was really smart, and I hadn't really thought about it because we had talked about why Ohio State doesn't go tempo more. Why, because they've used tempo, they used tempo against Texas. And then they backed out of it. They practiced it all week to go up there against Washington, and thinking that tempo could be something a great neutralizer to the crowd noise, things like that. But when you go tempo, you don't get all that quality time talking to the quarterback on the helmet comms. And they're really coaching up Julian every play on the helmet comps, and that's why they're not going. That's why they're not utilizing tempo as much as they would like to or might in the future, is because they're spending that time coaching Julian between plays. Because
Yeah.
you can communicate with them up till I believe it's like until 15 seconds to go
Yeah.
on the game clock. So that's a lot of time to be able to say to them, okay, now look watch that second safety. If that second safety crashes down, go right to the seam on the right side. I mean, they're giving him his kind of like a golfer getting swing thoughts or whatever it is from their coach in real time out there on the field. So they like that element of it. They like what they can do in terms of doing the thing. They're bringing Julian along, kind of slowly, but by doing that, it kind of slows the game down. So if you combined Ohio State kind of going slow, not going, or I should say, not going fast, not taking a lot of deep shots on big scoring plays. We don't have the explosive back, the Trey Henderson, the Quinshon Judkins that's going to break off the 75 80-yard run, with regularity, and you're playing against teams that are also trying to slow the game down. What happens? Well, the Ohio State games are going to be lower scoring. So if you're an under better, probably be looking to that. And I think for Ohio State, what they're looking at is they're playing the long game. They said this last year. They wanted to play slow because they felt that come playoff time that they would be the more rested team, the more, the more ready to fire team. And they sure looked that way in the playoffs. And I think it was a sneaky advantage for them last year not to play in the Big Ten championship game. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? To not have that extra game to prepare for. Because right now, I mean, be like you look at the thing, and we can get ahead of ourselves and talk about games and tiebreakers and this and that and all this other stuff like that. But like, what's the benefit of playing that Big Ten championship game?
That's a tough one to swallow. That question right there, Nevada, that is tough for growing up and watching, like that's tough because you're right. You're right. What is the benefit besides injury and fatigue? And
Yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
playing.
and
I'm playing Oregon. Say we play Oregon. Okay, that's a hell game. You know what I'm saying? That
yeah,
is
man.
another just unbelievably difficult game. And then you got to get ready for play. Heaven forbid you lose. You know what I'm saying? Then really,
Right.
what have you accomplished in terms of getting to that game? Um, so I think it was. I think the scenario last year where we lost, avoided the Big Ten championship game. I mean, that might have been the key. I mean, that might have been the fuel, man. That might have been the fuel, and the fact that they had that time to prepare. Because I'm just looking at this thing right now, and I'm not trying to be, Sally sad sack or something like that, and look at the thing and you complain. But like, what is the benefit to playing in that Big Ten championship game?
Yeah. I just I don't see it, man. In this new world, it's a good question, man. And I know people hate that, but it's all about ships. And so Nevada, that's a good segue to what I was going to respond with to all your points is that the advantage Ryan Day has, y'all. Okay, he's been through the gauntlet of winning a championship. The management of the schedule, the long haul. He's had a front row seat of what it takes. So I think there's a disconnect, Nevada, from a lot of fans and Ryan Day and his coaching staff, meaning fans aren't really trying to hear manage. They're not trying to hear let's get ready and let's take one game at a time to prepare for the run. Excuse me, for the stretch run. You know what I'm saying? That's not saying we don't want to score a million points and blow everybody out. Of course we want to do that. But Ryan Day understands the bigger picture. So if slowing it down to get Sayin, comfortable and properly prepped and prepared, not only for the current game, but for the long haul, is a greater, better perspective and vision than a short term, let's go tempo so we can score 40 more points. Well, that's cool, but that's not the bigger picture. So before I continue, I think you want to jump in. Please jump in if you want to on that point.
No, I think it's such a good point, man. I haven't heard anybody else articulate that point, B. Um, but it's so spot on. It's so spot on. There is a complete disconnect between the way that Ryan Day is viewing the prism of this season and what the
Yeah,
importance of things are, and the way that the average fan does, or average person, watching Ohio State does. And I liken it to, people hate this topic. We were having some fun with this in the pre-show, but load management, load
yeah,
management in the NBA. People hate it when those guys sit out and stuff like that. But you know what? It makes a difference, man. And it's not just physically, it's mentally as well. It's like, how can you manage? You only got a finite amount of mental energy, physical energy that you can expend. And it's not, like I said, it's not infinite. It's not like we can just go well, we can play it 100% every week. Like Ryan Day knows with his team, he can't just go to the way. It's like a horse. You can't just whip the horse. Like when you run a race with a horse, you don't just start whipping the horse as soon as you get out of the gate. You know
right,
what I'm saying? Because otherwise, that'd be like, wow, that's the meta strategy. B Moses, you'd be the greatest jockey of all time. B Moses just beats the heck out of the horse as soon as he goes out of the gate, and they're like, wow, the horse runs great. It's like, no, because at some point the horse stops responding. The horse is like,
right.
no, you're whipping me, and You can't do it. So you got to pick the times when you whip that horse in terms of getting those guys up, and realize that after you do that, that there's going to be a period of time when they're going to come down, and you got to manage that as well. So the ebbs and flows of the season are stuff that, man, fans don't ever think about, because they think it's just Madden. They think it's, what's your team? Well, my team's a 98, and your team's a 94, so I'm going to win every game when we
Right.
play in Madden on auto mode or whatever the thing is. That's not the way it works with these kids, man. Like, you have to pick your spots in terms of going to them, and then you got to figure out other ways to motivate them on the times when they're down. And I think Ryan is so good at that. But that was my, I just want to commend you on that point, because I think it's a great point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. And it's just people just need to really, if they want to truly understand and not just listen, we're fans. I'm not trying to tell you how to fan. Look, for you guys, because I get comments, if you want to freak out, 3 minutes into the first quarter and say we're going to lose, do that. Do whatever makes you feel good. We're just trying to help. We're also trying to just kind of give you perspective on where the coaches are coming from in the long haul, because at the end of the day, we want natties. Ryan Day wants to be the first multiple national championship winning coach at Ohio State since Woody Hayes. He said that. And so he's going to do everything he possibly can to make that happen. And so we're in it now. Okay. And I'm laughing at Gary Founds in the chat. He said, Nevada, he responded to your comment, talk about me being a horse jockey. He said, also the largest jockey of all time. And I laugh because I know how dinky the jockeys are typically, right? And I'm like double the size of a
Well,
typical
B, you'd
jockey.
walk into the jockey room, man. They'd be like, "Who the heck is this guy?" It's like, this is the new jockey. He's got the new strategy. He just beats the heck out of the horse every time he gets on the horse. It's like, Bevo
Oh
is
man,
the world's largest jockey. I love it.
that's funny. But yeah, and real quick before we get the super chats, I want to quote my homeboy, one of my homeboys, Braxton, as a side note about saying, because the undercurrent of this thing is that we know Sayin is really good. I feel like he's still being slept on and downplayed. And he said, I've come to the conclusion the rest of the country, non-Buckeye fans, think Sayin sucks purely based on his appearance. I do think there's something to that. I'm not going to go into a long tangent, but I do think his smaller stature, his cool California surfer boy look, doesn't look intimidating. I think that's sort of a undercurrent in people's perspective on him. Well, he's not that good, and he surely can't throw the deep ball because look how small he is. Nevada.
Well, how would you describe Carson Beck's look? Like, man, that
Yeah,
guy, that he is an unattractive dude, man. That guy looks, I mean, he is
sleepy
super
eyes
unattractive.
back, sleepy
Sleepy
eyes.
eyes. His face looks like a box of melted caramels or something like that on there, and it's like, I mean, he is just, yeah. Like, I guess that's what you want. I mean, because Julian's kind of that baby face, he's that baby
Yeah,
face assassin, man. But I guess I'm used to seeing it out there in California. You see those he's a typical California quarterback, man. And
yeah,
I don't know. We had Jimmy Carsados, rest his soul, before, but Jimmy wasn't in the classic mode. He was from the smaller school, and he wasn't from the classic big school, throwing the ball around, top of the food chart thing. But yeah, and that could be it. Maybe, people are looking at Julian, but I mean, he's not that small, is he? I mean, he's not like,
no,
I don't when I watch him on the field, I don't feel like he's like Mr. Tiny or anything
he's
like
not.
that. But no, but yeah, no, it's I'm glad they continue to sleep on. I feel like Ohio State's being slept on, to be honest with you, truth be
Yeah,
told. I think that, I don't, like, we're good. We know we're good. We're getting better. We're improving. We see how high, the top end is for this team. But I don't think people are really, I don't, while people can talk about us being there, I don't think that there's like this sincere talk where they feel like that we're like, like the team to beat for the national
yeah,
championship this
I
year.
agree.
Like, when I hear the conversations, I just don't hear Ohio State that much. And frankly, I love it. Look, last year when we lost to Michigan and everybody lost hope, you know, that's where I want to be, man. That's where I want to be. I want to be in there with a chip and a chair and a chance, and a home game, and a chance to get hot and a chance to control your own destiny, and win 4 spots there. I think Ohio State's going to be very dangerous. I just, man, I hate I don't want to be the old guy that sits there, just, yells at the moon all night. But the idea that you got to go to this Big Ten championship game and play one more after playing the schedule. So our schedule would be finishing with at Michigan, then Oregon, and then four, top 10 team or whatever the thing would be, to
Right.
win the national championship. Like our schedule's not tough enough already. Like, come on, that's just insane.
Yeah, but we're gonna see because I think we're gonna end up playing in Indianapolis. I think it's gonna happen. And I'm listen. We're not saying please don't go to the Big Ten title. It's just the reality of the new landscape. It's just something to ponder. But I do think we're going to be in the game, so we're gonna see how we handle it. But yeah, I definitely love the doubters. I do feel like it's a quiet, oh, well, I guess they can be number one right now. Texas is not that good. How good are they really? They're not putting up that many points. They lost, that's what we're seeing. And it's cool. It's cool. Like you said, I don't care. I don't even care about being number one right now. It doesn't matter. We are grown, mature college football fans. It doesn't matter if we're number one right now. It matters how we finish. Okay. So let's get into these super chats. Perry Ellison, thanks for the 9.99. Concerns about our run game that isn't elite. How do we attack a zone D like Michigan? Michigan's that drops 8 into coverage. It becomes impossible to convert 5+ first downs a drive plus succeed in the red zone. So we kind of touched on this earlier, Perry. As far as attacking, these teams who want to run zone and cover 3 and all this other stuff. I mean, running the ball effectively is definitely key. Now, listen, outside zone is something we need to continue to be good at because it's not just running the ball. You can run the ball, but outside zone basically stretches the defense horizontally. So it creates cutback lanes. So let me paint a picture. J.K. Dobbins. Remember J.K. Dobbins? He was so good at outside zone and inside zone for that matter, but so good because he was a great cutback running back. Think about the game against Clemson, that big run he had for a touchdown. That was a perfect example of the lanes that are created for backs like J.K. Dobbins and Bo Jackson, who can cut it back with a head full of steam and just outrun the safety and outrun their angles because it stretches them horizontally. So that would definitely help. Also, Sayin and also Brian Hartline dialing up plays, especially not just for known cover 3 beaters, but watching Michigan on film to see where their weaknesses are, a la 2018 when Ryan Day dialed up, against that Don Brown defense, that heavy man blitzing defense. We ran a bunch of crossers and absolutely killed them. We have to identify the weaknesses and perfect our strengths. And like I just mentioned, run the ball effectively. And we got a long time to get this run game together before we see them up north. But we already see the progression. Nevada, you want to add to that?
Well, yeah, and I look, I think concerns about our running game are absolutely appropriate, and I don't think that's alarmism or I think that's just common sense. I think we can all see it, and I think it's a great point. That it can come to confound us if we're not able to run the ball effectively, especially in the red zone. Um, Now, I think a lot of people aren't seeing, and I'm not saying that the posters, but I'm just making an observation about these packages with the multiple tight ends. And what they're trying to do with that is they're trying to present that as kind of their run pass option because all those tight ends are valid receiving threats.
Yeah.
And Julian likes to, complete the ball to the tight end. But they can also give you the blocking. They can also give those extra men on the blocking. So that's what they're trying to do is kind of their, to set up kind of the dual threat thing as these multiple tight end looks. And I think we'll see more of that. And that's why when they ran that 4th and 1 on the goal line or near the goal line against Washington, they had a bunch of tight ends in there. They ran, they faked and rolled out, and you had Jelani open in the back, and you had CJ Donaldson open in the front, and so they were both open. You could have thrown it to either one of those guys. I think
Yeah.
they're going to be doing more and more of that stuff in the red zone. They like what that gives them in the red zone in terms of the run pass option, just because we have so many good receiving tight ends. So that's something to look out for as well, because it's one thing to say, hey, I want JJ on the field, near the goal line, or I don't want to take the best player off the field near the goal line, which I get, to a certain degree. But how much is JJ going to bring or Carnell going to bring to you from a blocking perspective? The answer is not much. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So having a tight end there that can provide a blocking and a receiving threat, I get that. Now, do I like having JJ on the outside that can run a quick slant or something? Yeah. I mean, the Packers threw 3 times to Dobbs around the end zone and completed them all. You can do that around the end zone with a great wide receiver, and JJ is certainly a great wide receiver. And I think they've just got to find it. They've got to kind of strike a balance with that. But the running game stuff they've got to figure out. But I think what's going to really help is when they start running more of these counters, misdirections, kind of start working on some of these blocking angles, because I think that we've been kind of going kind of from point A to point B a lot in the early going on the on our running. I think our running game's been a little predictable, and I expect that's going to change here in the next few weeks, and that should help out everybody.
Yeah, I'm glad you addressed the 12 personnel and 13 personnel, because I know there's some people, even on my game thread on my Buckeye page, were complaining about it and really like, well, this is not working. And there's a vision. There's a vision. And remember, one quick thing before we move on, Nevada, I wanted to point out, because we're quick to say play calling is bad in hindsight. Remember, the play that we failed on fourth down against Washington was a very similar play that we actually prevailed with against Texas. Nate Roberts was the lead blocker on that play against Texas. On that play, he executed and got to his spot and was able to open the hole. Against Washington, he whiffed. He actually went blocked down on a guy that was kind of not even really affecting the play. He didn't go into the hole to block the linebacker that came up that actually ended up tackling Donaldson. Now, to be fair, Donaldson was a little high, as we discussed yesterday. His pad level needs to drop. Okay, so 2 things on that play. Nate Roberts didn't execute his assignment, but he's a true freshman, and he was really good against Texas. So we're not just knocking him. He needs to, continue to be consistent. But Donaldson also needs to get lower in the hole, drive his legs. He was way too high. So it's I don't want to throw out certain things because of lack of execution on one play when we clearly saw it work against an even better defense. So I just wanted to add some perspective to that. But with that said, we still need to make sure we're evolving and not being predictable, like Nevada said, especially in the red zone. So anything on that before I go to the next super chat?
No, I mean, look, had Nate gone into the hole, then we're probably not having this conversation about short yardage problems.
Yep.
But sometimes it's I was actually glad to see it, because I thought the next time when they got to short yardage, they went with that quick hitter, which I'm always I think back when we would get in the red zone when Tom Herman was here. You know what we'd do? We ran jet speed. They'd go right to the line immediately, and they'd run that zone reaction, and we scored every single time.
Yeah.
I don't like the slow developing stuff. I want to see, quick hitters into the hole, or frankly, I'm okay with play action. I know some people, I feel like some people feel like that's not being manly enough or something, like, we got to run it. And I'm like, screw that, man. Let's just,
Right.
like, if we want to point to the hole and then fake and then roll out. And so you've got 3 options. You got a Julian saying run, you've got a Julian saying pass to CJ Donaldson at the first level, or to Johnny Thurman at the second level. Man, give me that all day long. You know what I mean? Because the name of the game is scoring. I don't care how you do it. And I think I just want Ohio State to do it the easiest way possible.
Definitely. Real quick to add on, real quick. So Nevada's point earlier before this last comment was very important, y'all, because if we can effectively run with that heavy look, effectively run and show our power that we can execute and knock guys back, teams are going to overreact. And boom, we'll be able to slip tight ends out. We'll be able to do so much off of that if we have that balance. So I understand the concept, and we have the personnel to do it. So we'll see. We will see. All right, Pastor Mark, what's up? Thanks for being a Scoop Ultra member. Thanks for the $4.99. We will see that deep ball soon enough. OH Nevada. OH Nevada. You on mute? There he is.
I was yelling, I-O. I'm like, oh, I'm on mute.
Oh man, I thought you had a chicken wing in your mouth or something. He's like,
I was eating
I
some.
know.
I said some bone marrow. I was sucking the bone marrow out.
Out of your state.
Out of my
Nah,
state.
but no, I agree, Mark. It's coming, just like last year. Just like last year. Will Howard, it was more about his feet. Sayin is already ahead of Will Howard as far as footwork. Would you agree, Nevada?
No, and again, great point. I mean, when you're talking, if you wanted to complain about mechanics with Will, you could talk about it. I mean, that was legit.
Yeah.
But Julian's mechanics are beautiful. They're nearly perfect. I think his timing's maybe a little bit off, as we talked about earlier. But yeah, no, I agree. It's just a pure thrower of the football. Julian's saying, not as a quarterback, because Will had 50 starts under his belt, was a big horse, and could run the ball and do a lot of things Julian can't. But just as a thrower of the ball, Julian's well advanced of Will Howard.
Yep. And that's no knock on Willie. God bless you. Thanks for the ship and the natty.
Yep.
Love
Yep.
you. Love you. All right. Will the Thrill, thanks for the 1999. Appreciate you. It hurts to ask this, but do you think the strategy among coaches is to win similarly to how Scum won in 2023? Move the chains, don't turn it over, and the defense controls the game. Subtract the sign stealing, of course. I was just about to say, yeah, we don't have any Bonner Fallions on our sideline. Um, you know, cheating their what's off. So I don't know. I'm going to say no, Nevada. I mean, listen, there's always going to be an element that's a basic principle for any team to move the chains and not turn the ball over and play defense. But I don't think it's going to be like a trestle ball type of thing. I just simply think what we're seeing is a combination of what defenses are doing to stop our attack with our receivers. The whole world knows our receivers. Freaking Teddy Bridgewater, who didn't know who Abuka was, said, "Oh, he's the guy who plays with Jeremiah Smith." He knew who Jeremiah Smith was, but he didn't know who Abuka was. He thought he was a tight end, just in camp. So we are world famous in the receiver room. So teams are going to scheme to take that deep ball away. So we're seeing a combination of that. Plus, we're seeing a combination of Sayin, who's very skilled but still young, being brought along. So I think as the season goes on, we'll see more things open up naturally. That's kind of my quick answer on that, Nevada. What you got?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, Michigan was really limited that year. They had a quarterback who couldn't throw the football, and they had no wide receivers. You know what I'm saying? We have
Right.
we have the best wide receiving core in college football, bar none, not even close. The best, wide receiver that maybe ever played college football, and JJ Smith, and an Elite 11 winning, gunslinger quarterback. So yeah, I agree that limiting turnovers and doing, winning the surest way. And yeah, that's a formula for every team. But no, I don't think we're going to be playing that way at all with I think Julian's a very, he's a very controlled guy. He's a very accurate guy. But unlike JJ, he can make all the throws. I mean,
Yeah.
JJ McCarthy could only throw like the fastball outside to Colson Loveland or something like that. I mean, he was not a guy that was going to layer the football in any level. Julian throws better to the middle of the field and the seams, frankly, than he does anywhere else on the field, which is really rare for a quarterback. But he's the most accurate quarterback. He's like 93% to the middle of the field, and that's just almost unheard of in college football.
JJ Mid Carthy was a
Mid,
handoff
oh,
merchant.
oh yeah,
And it's just like I'm just smiling because again the Michigan fans came in by the droves to get me for that Uncle Rico post, and it was crickets after that Atlanta game, and I just absolutely love it. And I don't think he's hurt that much. If he was a bona fide star, he would have played. I just don't buy it. He was soft benched. But anyway, I'm not going to go off on that tangent. But yeah, we'll see how McCarthy ends up in the league. Um, all right, Will the Thrill, thanks for the 4.99. Julian leads the nation in the only stat that matters. 4-0, reigning, defending, undisputed. I 1000% agree, Will. Yeah, let's do it. Best chance, or I'm sorry, the best part about being 4-0 is you have the chance to go 5-0, Nevada.
yeah. And the best thing about going 5-0 is that makes Friday Day the highest winning percentage in the history of college football. So
Right.
yeah, it's a big game this weekend. I do want again, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but the whole Gus Johnson, the world famous Ohio State Buckeye, the fact that he's a Michigan fan and that he crap talks Ohio State when he's out there, it kind of ruined it for me. Like
Mm.
I for whatever reason I didn't know that, and then since I've known that, it bugs me. I don't want to hear him calling Ohio State games anymore. 'Cause they know he doesn't like Ohio State, so it's like.
Yeah. So what? Now I knew he's from Detroit. I know his story,
He's a
but
He's a Michigan fan. He was talking about how happy he's been the last 4 years, and these have been the greatest games of his life, and how happy he is when they beat Ohio. I mean, like he doesn't like
okay.
Ohio State. He is not an Ohio State fan.
Yeah, I know that, but I haven't heard him talk crap about Ohio State, so I missed
Yeah,
that.
when he didn't do it on the air, man. This was like on a
Okay.
podcast and stuff like that. Yeah,
Okay.
this was
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he's not on there with Joel Klatt going, I really hate the Buckeyes, you know.
Right. Yeah, but let's say I'm surprised that flew under the radar. Somebody usually sends me something like, "Hey B, you hear this?" I didn't. You gonna have to send that to me, but but yeah, he's kind of got. I don't hate him. He's fine, and I do like the world famous because we are world famous. But he's kind of him and Klatt. Not to sidetrack as we finish off, but him and Klatt have just kind of a little bit over the
to-
years.
to- totally,
They're not
totally.
as appealing. But I do like the world famous though.
The act is tired, man. The act
Yeah.
is tired. They need to find a new shtick.
Yeah, and Joe Klatt, just never mind. That's another podcast. I'll move on. I will move on. But all right, Lisa, what is up? Thanks for the 4.99. Always appreciate you and your comments. You have great comments. I wanted to let you know that you're good at what you do. Not only is Day bringing Sayin along slowly, Day holds his cards back and doesn't want to show much on film this early. And then you said defense elite. What say you? And this is why you're so good, because I had uploaded this graphic and I was hoping to have a chance to show it. But I was like, is it going to make sense to show this graphic today? When we're talking about the offense and Julian saying, but look at this. Look at this. I mean, like just bask in it. Bask in it. The numbers, the defense. This defense is just beautiful. I freaking love it, Nevada. What say you?
Yeah, no, one, Ryan is absolutely managing everything about Julian saying thing, up to and including the helmet comms and bringing the offense along slowly, bringing Julian along slowly. Um, as for the defense, yeah, the average giving up 5.5 points a game is pretty silly. Do I think they'll finish the year at 5.5 points a
Silly.
game? No, no, it'll be higher. It'll be higher than 5.5 points a game, but it's yeah, I did not think it was possible. I did not. We talk about not having your bingo card, Austin Cyberville, the All-American left tackle. I definitely didn't have Ohio State defense better in 2025 than they were in 2024. I would have thought that was crazy talk.
Yeah,
I think it was just only a question of how far we're going to fall. This defense is better than last year's defense. I'm going to say it right now.
it's
It's just
crazy.
better. I don't care how it turns out. How's it? But this is a better. It's a more. It's just they're just solid. They're not that they can't. Every defense has got weaknesses. Some people find ways to exploit them, but this is a better defense than last year, and that's saying
Yeah, I
something.
I agree. And listen, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I nailed this, either. I mean, my thing was, yeah, we'll take a step back, but it's still gonna be a very good defense. But yeah, this is just a whole nother level of defense, and I freaking love it. So let me go ahead and take that off the screen and get to the last super chat. All right, is it Dario or is it Dar? Help me in the chat. Mosby, thanks for the 10. I don't want to butcher names. Or is it Daryl? Or is it just Daryl spelled differently? I'm used to Daryl spelled Darrell or Darryl. It's probably Daryl, ain't it? Let me know. Either way, you said Patricia equals Bobby Fischer, effectively using NFL scheme with a college team that has NFL dudes. Whole team plays with patience, persistence, and consistency. No flags on Iggy. OH Nevada.
I oh
Yeah, what you got to say about that?
well, first of all, a movie reference, Searching for Bobby Fischer. Did you ever see the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer?
I know what you're talking about, but I have not seen it.
Great movie. There's a great scene in it where his son's like the next great chess prodigy, and his the wife or the teacher's like he's out of school a lot. And she's like, well, I know he's got this little chess thing, and the dad's like, no, not chess thing. He is better at chess than anything you will ever be at in your entire life. And it's such a great scene. But anyway, no, I agree. It's crazy how much we look like an NFL team, and that's exactly the analogy that when I look at Ohio State, I feel like I'm watching an NFL defense. And I, not that we weren't well coordinated in the past or had success in the past or whatever, but we've never looked we look like we're literally the only team out of 135 teams in college football running a pro defense. And now that's probably because we have Arvell Reese, who's a werewolf, and we got Caleb Downs, who's going to be a multi-year All-Pro in the NFL. We got a lot of really good players out there, but yeah, it's crazy how good we are on defense and how well coordinated we are, and how much we do look like an NFL team. And um, like I said, I don't want to just go on a blabber about it, but it's been nothing short of amazing.
No, no doubt, man. And yeah, again, the film guys who are non-biased who watches, they say the same thing. NFLD, and you look at that werewolf Reese out there, it's just like, bye bye. We love you. Wish you could stay longer, but we know you're gone. And also, real quick, I'm Googling, searching for Bobby Fischer. Like I said, I remember this movie. I just never watched it. This may have to go on my list. My boy Lawrence Fishburne is on the cast.
Yes, he is. He
Ben
plays
Kingsley,
Vance Kingsley. Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne plays
great,
like a chess hustler in the park. So great
yeah,
role for him.
great actor. Did I see Drew Barrymore? Did I see her face on here?
I don't know.
Yeah, Drew Barrymore is on the flyer. But
Okay,
hold
there we
on.
go.
Yeah, but I don't see her name on. But anyway, I'm gonna have to add that to the list. But anyway,
Okay.
all right. So listen, great show once again. Great super chats. You guys always bring it. With the topics, and really good to bounce questions and things off of. It's just great. Best chat in the land. We love y'all. All right. So listen, hope y'all have a good rest of y'all week. We're gonna see y'all tomorrow. We'll address if somebody else wants to throw shade at one of our players, we're going to address it. But no, for real, it was fun. I'm glad they did that. It gave us a chance to really show even more love to our guy and bring out the counter arguments for that. But listen, man, happy to be a Buckeye fan. Be excited. We got Minnesota coming up, and we'll dig into that throughout the week. Until then, we'll see y'all next time. Go Bucks. Peace.